Now, I know he was elated, like it's basketball. And last night was one of those thrilling games on the biggest stage, right? Madison Square Garden, hallowed arena. And we just saw an incredible game. Great, great basketball. And a guy who lives it, the coach, our treasure here in Philadelphia, of course, Jimmy Lynam. What do you say, Jim?
Good morning there, sir. How you doing, buddy?
I loved your when I was like, Jimmy, we got to talk about that game. You're like, I probably won't even sleep after that night.
Yeah, that was a wild one. This has been a great series, and it seems like the next game tops what was a sensational game, the one before. But yeah, you saw really an incredible performance by Maxey in the waning minutes and then the overtime.
I mean, let's focus in on that and some of the stuff. I remember covering the Reggie Miller games, right, when I was working in New York. And
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yes, sir.
I mean, Reggie scored 8.9 seconds in '95, and like I'm watching Maxine, it was incandescent, like on that floor, Jim. Like, I mean, it's such a special, and he's such a lovable kid. Like playing with joy. It was just an awesome night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to the chagrin, I guess, of a lot of folks in Madison Square Garden, the Knicks fans. But if you could remove yourself, with respect to your loyalties, it was really just an incredible performance that he could come up with those. Well, I'm going to say two plays, but I'm doing them an injustice. I mean, he was so good all night long, and his ability just to rise to the occasion. I think Nick Nurse said it afterwards. He sensed that Embiid doesn't have it in terms of scoring his normal baskets, and in fact, I think Embiid, according to Maxey post game, kind of indicated that to Tyrese and his ability as a young player. I was going to say as a player, but as a 23-year-old guy to just take the baton and run with it and just perform like that. I mean, it's really spectacular.
Right? I mean, you know what? It was lost because we'll get into the 4-point play and then, of course, the game tying three. But little things early, like in that game, using his speed, going in with finger rolls. The one right before halftime where he's able to dive to the basket and score just before halftime. That was a big bucket. All those moments when New York was looking to take control, Maxey had an answer.
Yeah, that is a play worth, I think, referencing. In that, as he was coming like up the court in the backcourt, the camera on him, and my initial sense was, dude, like there's like 5-ish seconds, like get on your horse. But his internal clock is so good, he had timed it perfectly. What he's doing, he's kind of lulling the defender a little bit. Like, yeah, I'm going pretty quick, having no idea that the speed I'm about to show you is hard to comprehend. And then as he hits half court, like, boom, he turns the Jets on. And bottom line, he's laying the ball up right before the buzzer. I mean, you talk about perfection of an internal clock kind of in sync with these unique abilities of athleticism and speed. Yeah, that's the play they'll talk about.
It was amazing is the speed, the quickness to be that fast, right? The only person that was that fast was John Wall, right? And John Wall, of course, doesn't have a touch like Maxey does. And to combine that kind of burst and speed with his touch, because to have a touch, be able to go that fast, to have the body control is probably one of the greatest gifts of his game. And you saw it when he gets to foul on Mitchell Robinson, still has enough control of his body and strength to knock down the triple.
Yeah, that's a good analysis by you, Anthony, in terms of the unique qualities that Maxey has and that he's developed. And I think Mark Jackson does a great job over time of having like looked at his development and pointing out like the way he uses his speed. I think it's a good parallel. I like to use football analogies. I'm just a football fan. I don't profess to know football, but I hear them say over the years, when you go back and the NFL, they went through a phase, I don't know, maybe in the 80s, let's say, maybe even further back, where they were drafting sprinters. I mean, world class guys, Olympic.
Ronaldo Nehemiah. Yeah.
There you go. And the point being that there's more to it than speed, or these guys would be leading receivers in the NFL. Well, Maxey has mastered that. We always say over the years, like the best dribble move, forget through the legs, behind the back, the spin, what have you. Not that they're bad, but the change of speed. Be able to change your speed and with it change the direction. And Maxey, like literally the fastest guy in the NBA for me, is the master of that. He understands that when I slow down, you guarding me, you have to slow down. And when I decide to go fast, you can't start as fast as I'm going. Boom, goodbye. And he leaves that would-be defender literally standing back there in the dust.
That's a great analogy. The sprinter analogy. That's a great analogy. Let's look at the big fella. You mentioned it. He obviously never got into a flow offensively. He didn't feel it like himself. Even the elbow, he got the elbow a couple times and he missed it. The biggest problem though was the turnovers. I mean, just those passes. There was what do you do to button that up? I mean, he had the 10 dimes, right? They're always going to blitz him. How do you get him to button that up a little bit?
Well, I would really like to know, and we probably never will, to degree to which, my wife who watches these games and, she's seen a lot of basketball. She has a feel, for what's going on. And one of the first things she said to me when I got home last night, do you think that the palsy is bothering Joe, like in terms of vision or feel? And we had talked about it, Mark and I, on the show last night at one of the breaks. And my guess is yes. I think, again, I can't, I'm not inside Joel's body,
Right.
but I think something about a couple of those turns. You noticed on the one, it was about halfway through, a little more than the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter. And he has the turnover. I think I'm trying to think who somebody from the Knicks picks it up and goes the length of the court in a blur, like a breakaway kind of layup, and timeout. And Nick Nurse immediately subs Joel. He took him out of the game.
Yeah, he went small with Batum then. Yep. I thought it was a great move.
It wasn't that he wanted to go small. He knew he had to get Joe out of the game. And he referenced this post game in his press session when he said he was doing uncharacteristic, and Nurse used that word, uncharacteristic things. And he meant not just a turnover, but an uncharacteristic turnover. And I would agree. And I thought it was really a good move by Nick Nurse to kind of just let Joe kind of calm down, reflect on what he, had just done over the previous couple of minutes. Two really not just bad turnovers, but Joe can he turn the ball over? Sure, but not the way he did. And I thought that was very illuminating. So to your point, I think that he has to maybe try to dial it back a little bit because for whatever reason, the physical thing with the knee and now this palsy, he's dealing with a shorter deck and he doesn't have his normal skill set that he's bringing to these games. And he has to, kind of adjust to that.
Yeah, that's a great point. We hear about the Bell's palsy, but we don't know how it manifests itself. And
exactly,
that's and you're right. Like your vision, your feel, and it looked like both those were cross court plays, and he must have thought he had it, which is why
like
he makes
the one
the pass.
As soon as he threw the one, I turned to Mark. It was just, you can throw a bad pass or a careless pass. No, that didn't fall into that category for me. There was something like he threw it like way too hard, way too wide to a guy that really wasn't. There were too many. I'll use Nick Nurse's phrase, uncharacteristic type of turnover.
Yes,
and give Nurse that's pretty astute.
I thought that was just like you. I thought that was a key moment to be able to get him a breath to fit, like you said, to reflect on it, but just to calm him down, like just to calm down. And I like the idea, knowing he has to take him out of the game there. What I meant was going with Batum in that spot and not Paul Reed. I thought was key. Batum.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Paul Reed, I guess, got a few minutes earlier, and just he didn't perform to the level that they felt they needed. So yeah, and Batum, as you know, is a very steady guy. Might he get in a situation where you'd like to have a bigger body, maybe on a rebound play? Yeah, maybe. But overall, body of work. One of the things I like about Batum is he's not a mistake kind of guy. You feel confident when the ball's in his hands that good things are going to happen. He makes good passes, and he's also very, very likely to make an open three if, in fact, it presents itself.
And look, we kill him. You got to praise him because last night Tobias played, I thought, really well. He made that big shot, like that mid-range shot was big. He's draped over him. He played, I thought, really good defense. I thought he had a terrific game last night.
Yeah, I would agree. And as you say, I hate to say, as Tobias goes, so go the Sixers. But you really do need his complementary scoring. You average 17 points a game over the course of the regular season. And if you're only going to get half that, he's up till last night, he came in averaging less than double figures, but I think maybe 8 and change with low shooting percentages. And that makes the struggle, all the more difficult. You count on guys kind of playing somewhere near, their normal game, and not to do that on a consistent basis. And I like to say these series, there's 7 games, not 17 games, 7. So you can ill afford, like give one game away, have like, I had 3 bad games. Well, there's only 7 games in a series. So yeah, that was a big reason for the Sixers being able to hang in and then pull that one out. And that was a big field goal, the one you referenced.
Just curious what your beliefs are, because I know Charles is talking about fouling before Maxey can get off that shot. You foul in that situation up 3. Do you foul like that? What's your strategic?
No, too much. I would ask Charles how much time they actually started talking about. What you saw the way the play unfolded. You're not going to foul. They had no chance because of where Maxey shot the ball from. He literally left the floor on the end for New York on the logo. I mean, please, it's almost a half court shot.
Yep.
So if you wanted to foul, you had to foul before the pick was set by Joe. Joe set the pick virtually on the half court line. So if you want to foul, I'm forced to foul in the backcourt. With double digits on the clock, I mean, there's probably still in the vicinity 10. Give me a tick either side of 10 seconds. That's an eternity in an NBA game. So, no, do I like fouling? Yeah, I love fouling. 5 seconds and under. I can't, to say you're going to do it in the backcourt with 10 seconds, that's a bit much for me.
I'll tell you, you know what's wild? We were talking about it earlier. The range that these kids have now. It's unbelievable. Like he raises up, you said, steps inside half mid-court, and it's not a heave, it's a shot.
No. You got it. Yep. And I don't know if I'm right, but I do know that I've asked enough people, and I think I can use the phrase, there's a consensus. You can thank Steph Curry for that.
Yes.
These young kids, when they're growing up and they're watching the stuff that he does, on a nightly basis for years now, and they're such incredible young athletes, and give some credit to the young people coaching these guys, whether it's high school or AAU. And I'm going to give a little plug for the AAU play. I've seen enough of the AAU now through my grandkids to know that there's real good coaching, a lot of good coaching taking place on that level. And that's when these kids start developing the kind of range that you're referring to. And you got to start guarding, as you saw last night. You got to start guarding. Literally, these guys can rise up anytime they cross that timeline and get into the front court. and they're not heaving a ball. That's a great point by you, Anthony. They are shooting a jump shot, and it's from 38 feet. I mean, wow.
I mean, to me,
Wow.
Dame does it. Besides Steph, Dame, SGA,
Oh,
Halliburton will do it every once in a while. Right? Anthony
absolutely. No,
Edwards will do it. Oh my
a
God!
flock. Yep, that's part of the repertoire. Yes, sir. Yeah, you
Yeah,
you heard
it's
Maxey after the game saying, that the coaches, Rico in particular, that's been on him to like work on that long one. And I will say this: even back in the day, the players loved. They used to they like to do a little mini gambling at the end of shoot arounds in the morning. They would end it with a half court shot. The first guy to knock it in takes the
yes,
change that's laying on the floor.
yes,
But
yes.
but I used to marvel at the guys, who and they were shooting a ball from just beyond the half court line, and I'm like, wow. But it shows you the level of athlete that these guys are, though.
Ah,
Extraordinary.
yeah, incredible. So it comes down to Game 6 now. How do you approach tomorrow night at the Wells Fargo Center?
Well, I'm going to agree with you and disagree. I heard you and Brad there for a few minutes when I was, waiting. And I think this series has been, for me, I've enjoyed it. And I can say this honestly, I've enjoyed this series thus far as much as any series, like as a fan, that
Yeah,
I've watched. Because every game is like a fingerprint. Every game has been different. Both teams now, in their own minds, feel they've given a game away. Sixers had a mortal lock on game two. If you're in New York up six with 27 seconds to go, you feel you have a mortal lock on game five and you gave that away. So every game has been incredibly different. The way it's won, different guys like stepping up. You saw 2 point guards have two of the. I mean, you could put Brunson's game game four and last
mm,
night's game five by Maxey. You can put those two games in a time capsule, and they're going to be valuable. And like people watching, like wow, like 100, maybe 1,000 years from now. That's how good
yeah.
that play was. So as a result of all that, I'm going to say the following: New York is much better than I would have realized. Had I seen them during the year? Yeah, I saw them. I didn't see them a lot. Brunson is just like, well, he's one of the top 10 players in this league, blindfolded, as are, in my opinion, Embiid and Maxey. So I think this series is an incredibly close series. And as usual is the case, the team that plays the best usually wins the game. So if the Sixers are going to win game six to take this back to Madison Square Garden, they're going to have to really play well. And you said it, they're going to have to cut down on those turnovers. They can't let New York get second shots. That's why they lost the game they did in Philly, because of the fact in the fourth quarter, all 3 quarters, they were great, limiting the New York Knicks to one shot. And all of a sudden, in the fourth quarter, they hold the Knicks to 20 points. But 11 of those 20 were second half points. Can't happen if you're going to expect to win the game. You can't give a team like this like easy outs, we call them. Give them an easy opportunity to steal buckets. They're too precious.
So I look at it and I'm thinking it's got to be a Joe game too. Like this is where you're back home, and I know he's got the leg, and we talk about the Bell's palsy, but like this is setting up for Joe to come in and kind of give you a little more score, get to the line a little bit more, and kind of give you that moment.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm going to take you exactly what you said, a little bit more. I don't think he's going to be able to come in. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
But I think he's really limited physically to the point you're not going to see the real Joe, the 40 to 50 point Joe. I
Okay.
don't think that's there. A little bit more, yes. Um, and obviously he'll look at the tape, and he, as I say, he's very. I always marvel that he knows himself, and he's a staunch critic. I always listen to him post game, and that finger gets pointed in his direction, first. So he'll look at this tape. He's a bright guy. He has a high basketball IQ, and he'll figure it out. I would be very, very surprised if he can't do something to rectify the turnovers. And keep in mind, as you already pointed out, Anthony, he had 10 assists. So this ball is in his hand all night long. And he and Maxey, the usage rate is off the charts for the two of them. So it's a big deal, and he has to be maybe a little bit more conservative with what he tries to do, and that will cut back on those turnovers. But I want to add one last thing, Anthony, and I agree with you 100%. If the Sixers can win Game 6 tomorrow at home, I think that game up in New York, Game 7, is a coin flip. Even though statistically, no, it's a knockout for the home team. But you had a 3-1 lead. To give up that lead of 3-1, now you're playing an elimination game, a Game 7 for survival. I think the pressure switches, in this case, to the Knicks.
You're a treasure. Well, I love it. Love talking about this great basketball with you, brother. We appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy. As always, I enjoyed every bit as much. Go Sixers. Let's see if we can get a Game 7 out of this.
Love it. A great Jimmy Lynam. He's the best. It's fantastic. All right.
We all silly like the mayor.